Everybody, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to give you an update on a couple of projects, including the Z1-R and the swing arm project, the VFR, and so forth. I'd like to talk about a subscriber giveaway too, because first of all, thanks for everybody that subscribed. Picked up quite a few subscribers, when you consider the size of the channel, that is, over the last even several weeks. So I really do appreciate that. And I want to say thank you at some point, and I figured the benchmark would be 1,000 subscribers. So when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to come up with some sort of a subscriber giveaway. I'm not really sure what it's going to be yet, but we'll figure it out when the time comes. Anyway, let's get right to it. We'll start with the Z1-R. Okay, here are some subsidiary parts. This is the blocks that I eventually came up with. I think I mentioned in a previous video I was going to change that stupid idea of going with two different pieces and make one big block for each one. Now the objective of these blocks are to essentially lock it in on one side, so you can push it in and it goes up against there. And then when I shoot a pin in, it'll be down through here, and that'll that'll do my alignment, and then the welder can weld them in. I'm still not 100% sure. The main not problem, but challenges were the central pivot. 7 Mary 3 to central. Okay, can anybody tell me what that's from? The central pivot here, to translate the force of tightening the pivot bolt so it doesn't spring the frame, but actually transmits the load through the swing arm, which it's supposed to do. So this is part of it. So naturally these ends are part of it, and this is the centerpiece. I did this today. I actually had to do one of these ends 3 times to get it right, but it is what it is. And I have a Mark II stamped. Right, left. On this too, I just milled a couple of flats on it, stamped those, and all you do is turn them down and you don't see them. So I'll show you how this goes together and how it tightens up. I'm really happy. In fact, I'm ecstatic how this came out. This came out real well, but it took a ton of time and machining to get this right. And so I will explain as I go. I think I'll put you at the back here so you can see it from this angle. And then we'll zoom up on it a little bit. So the first thing I do on this when you're putting it together is you have to slip it in. You have to slip this center spacer in by pushing the main bushing or bearing spacers out. Make sure it's oriented. That's great English there. Right and left. So this is calculated with this in mind, where that edge of the spacer right there sits in relationship to the end cap. So you can see I have a bore on the inside of the caps, which is just bigger than that spacer, just slightly bigger. And then this is clearance for the pivot. And then a flange, or not a flange, but a shoulder rather, that meets on the outside, so this thing kind of caps it off. So this one's for the right and this one's for the left. Alright, so that's it essentially in its assembled state, if you will. And so anyway, let me show you how it goes together, and it'll probably explain a little bit better and you'll be able to see it. So what I had to do was I had to machine this, so when you slip this in, it's just snug between the spaces on the frame that it captures to, I should say, or aligns to. You can see this just goes in. Because what you want is you don't want the frame to be squished at all, pulled together. So now all we do is we line that pivot up. You remember we fixed the other pivot. And then that's it. It goes right together. Now what we'll do is I'll switch you over to this side. No, that's no good either. Yeah, this is probably good enough. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple wrenches and I'm going to tighten up the bolt on that side the nut goes. And then I'll show you what I mean by the way it has to align. It's very close tolerance. There cannot be an excessive amount of side to side when it's tightened up, because that will pull the frame into this. I don't want to pull the frame into it all that much. And if I don't have the right offset on those little bores on the end caps, then once it is tightened up, it could be tight on the spacer that goes through here, but the swing arm could move back and forth, which again, I figured out it was plus or minus about 5 thou on the dimensions. Okay, now you can see, of course, it's very free to navigate. I'm just going to use a couple of wrenches here. Get them good and tight, wooden tight. That's a German torque spec. Alright, so that's pretty tight. Oh, just kidding. And you can see that this is nice and smooth, and it don't wiggle at all. So I mean, I nailed this, but it took a lot of time. I mean, it really works good. So here is the way I figured it would work. Is I made clearance on this to fit inside these little bores. This one and this one, just like there's a little clearance on the end caps, okay? And so when you operate this, when the suspension operates, it's actually rotating independently of this center pivot and the spacers, which you'd have to do that because, of course, that's where the force is. So right now there's an axial load across here. The frame isn't being distorted inwards, and we've got perfect motion here. And the only thing I don't have, and I haven't figured it out, is if I'm going to if I'm going to turn some or bore some O-ring grooves in some parts of this. I checked my O-ring stash. I don't have anything that's anywhere near the size. So what I might do is just measure things up and then order a bunch of different sizes of O-rings and then play with it. But I'd really like to seal this off somewhat. I'm not concerned about where this thing's flush with the frame, but in here and in here and of course over there, I am a little concerned about that. So I think I'm going to turn some O-ring grooves in there and find some thin O-rings that'll fit, and then O-ring it up. That's probably the best I can do. But as far as the operation goes, I'm super happy with it. I mean, there is no play here. If I put a dial indicator on it, you might get a half thou out of it, if that. Let's show you how it looks when a shock is on. I got the Hagen shocks. There's one right there. Hagen! And I'll show you how that's going to essentially look. I'm just going to do one for right now. These Hagen shocks come with stickers, and I am totally stealing these because I really like stickers. But you probably couldn't tell. When I made these blocks, I did this in the mill. I didn't do it in drill press because I really wanted a good parallel hole that's perpendicular with the surface. So that was easy to achieve with the vise and just a quick setup with a couple of parallels. I just drilled. What I essentially did was I went from the threaded side first, which is the inside. Remember, these are mirror images to each other. These are just some reliefs I milled into them. So they're mirror images. So I did each one from the thread side and popped the tap drill size for an M10 thread straight through both sides, then flipped it over and actually did a 10 millimeter hole in there. And it worked out well. And because it's in the mill and everything's nice and straight, and that thing is bitching when it comes to this kind of stuff, it works real well. So what we do here, we take the Hagen and we put it on. These are kind of tough to get on these. These are kind of tough to get on these pins here because of that stupid. What is this stuff called? The powder coating. All right. So then, this is a pretty snug fit too. We don't want a lot of play in here, so it goes right in fairly snug on both of them. Then we line the hole up. I'll just put her finger tight in here. Just a finger, and just for a second. That gets pushed over there, that gets there. And how I did the offset, when I really proved out that the offset this way or that way is correct, and the reason why I had to prove that to myself for a little sanity check, is as you can see, that spacer is thin while that one is big. So this swing arm appears to be pushed over this way to the right side, but it has to be because of the way the bends are in the back. That side's kicked out a little bit more the way it is set up. So over here you can see it's a little straighter, and over there it kind of kicks out to the side a little bit more. And how I proved that out is took a straight edge off of the actual this pin boss, whatever you want to call it, bumped up against the further, the furthest edge where it's welded in, and I went straight down with that, and it hit about the center of each side. So it's as close as it's going to get. Is it going to work? I don't know. Without a wheel and the engine and stuff, I'm not 100% sure, but I certainly am giving it its best opportunity to function. So the next step, again, I think I'm going to end up going 4 inches and bump this down a little bit. I'm sorry, not 4 inches, 4 1/4, 4.5 inches, which pushes this down a little bit, moves this up, and then make it a little bit lower, and that's probably where it's going to get welded in. But like I said, I'm going to put a pin in through here to locate it. So it locates this way, and it locates with a pin. That way the welder, can't mess it up, or not mess it up, but weld it in the wrong spot, because that's where I'm going to set them. Yeah, I think earlier I said bumped this to 4. That's not exactly right. I'm sorry. So it'll be, instead of 4 1/4, I think it'll be 4 1/2 up that way at this distance, which pushes the swing arm down and brings it up a little closer. I just have a gut feeling that's probably right. Anyway, on this side, I'm going to do a factory delete of the tab here that holds the chain guard in, because that's going to get in the way of this one, because they're going to end up sitting about right there. And I don't know what we're going to do for a chain guard yet. The last thing I'll mention is these have to come off. This is part of the old swing arm. We'll leave that tab on. It's not going to get in the way of anything. But grinding these off is a real pain in the ass, cutting them and grinding them. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Sawzall, and I'll cut them down right up to the welds. And then I'll fixture it over on the mill table over there. And then I'll just mill them down, because it'll be quicker, easier, and make a hell of a lot less mess than all that aluminum dust. So then it'll be ready to go up to the welder. I can get these welded now, but I'll just get everything done, and then we'll bring it up to the welder, and this will be pinned. That one will be pinned, and then this thing will essentially be done. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that came out. It really came out real well, and you can kind of see, if I show you from the back, what I mean by that. If you look straight down the frame. Straight down the frame, which is about right there. Okay, you can see that left side to us bows out a little bit more. In fact, the bend is in a different location. The bend for this one is up here, and the bend for that one is over there. And that's, of course, because they have to accommodate for the drive chain. So when I looked at that, I mean, it looks pretty damn even when you're looking straight down it like that. So I think we're going to be okay in that area as far as alignment goes, as long as he doesn't go too crazy on a wheel that is wider, the rim is wider or something. We can get that to dial in. You know what? Let me get that shock out of the way. You can see it a little bit better. Yeah, that shock kind of screws you up. Screws me up at least. But you can see what I mean? We're just about looking down the center of it. And yeah, about right there. So, and if you look at the bottom of that swing arm, it's pretty much centered up to it. I mean, it's not exact, but nothing ever is. And it has to be there. Unfortunately, the only place this can go is where it's at, because when the shocks come down and you kind of just let them hang, they essentially want to hang off about a 1/4 inch on each side evenly. And so that's why this thing is stepped out the way it is. That's a 1/4, and that bumps it out off the side of the swing arm a little bit, and then it pretty much puts it in where it needs to go. To move this over means both of the shocks would be angled like this, because it doesn't, the shocks wouldn't line up with the swing arm. So essentially, if I held to my location on the edge like that, they'd be angled. Quite a bit, actually. So probably at least 3/16 or so. So we had to do it there, and I think it's going to work just fine, because like I said, the way the swing arm's set up, clearly it's got an offset built into it. You can see it in that bend versus that one to accommodate for that. So that's what we're doing. As you can see from this shot, the VFR is completely done. I've been riding it. It hauls ass. What do you say? These are the head. Yeah. This is head. No, that's not head, but we won't talk about that now. Let's get that out of the way. All right. This is the head covers, the stator cover, clutch cover, and then that little doodad thing on the head cover for the jiggly bit valve there for the crankcase ventilation. This is burnt bronze Cerakote. This is a coating that a lot of people get on like guns and things like that. In fact, a place called Gulf Coast Armory here in Bradenton did it for me. This was about $340-something for all the the cleaning that he has to ahead of time. Even though I stripped them, and then the applying of the product. It's a special order product for him, but it really closely matches the original color that was on there. You got to trust me about that. But if you look them up online, you'll see what I mean. These are ready to go back on. I painted the block the other day. I cleaned it off really well with brake clean and just by hand. And this is a base coat of PJ1 High Temp Flat Black. I just kind of liked it as almost like a primer. And then I topped it with PJ1 500 degree engine paint in a satin sheen. I still got to do the chain doodaddy cover there. A couple other small bits, but that don't go back on until the engine's back in the frame anyway. So the next step on this is I'm going to get the clutch cover back on. Probably leave the stator cover off of this. And because it's got the marks, see a little mark right there to line it up for timing. Not that I really need them because I can kind of tell. But I'm going to crank it over on each one of the locations for the cylinders when they're at TDC, and I'm going to double check the valve clearance on all 4 cylinders. Might as well do it while it's out. We'll put all the covers back on and get it back in the frame when we can. I got some more work to do on the frame as far as cleaning though before we can get to that point. Yeah, I really like the covers. They came out great. And that may sound like a lot of money, but when you talk about sourcing out a good quality like urethane or other type of professional auto paint, that crap is ginormously expensive nowadays. And I'd probably spend 2/3 of what I spent on just having them do this with the Cerakote on materials. I'm not bullshitting you. A single can for this color, which is a Toyota 3R3 red for the sidecar rig, was 70-something bucks, and I went through 2 or 3 cans to do some work on the chair, the tub rather, and on that replacement fairing. The crap is ridiculously expensive. So anyway, that's where we're at on this, and I haven't been able to do anything else except some frame cleaning. You can see it's a little stained, but I got a product for that I'm going to clean it up with. It'll be just fine. Folks, it's howling. We got something coming in. Probably what you hear in the background in this video. Yeah, we got something coming in, folks. I got the Mopar or no car sitting over there in case one of these trees decides to let go. But yeah, so it's blowing. All right, so that's it. Short and sweet, like they should be, right? That gets you updated. So the other thing I wanted to mention was scheduled finally to get the Concourse 14 out of hibernation here and go destroy some curvy roads up in Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. So if I don't have any health issues that seem to be plaguing me at inopportune times lately, over the last couple of years, COVID, then I'll definitely take you with me on some of it. We'll shoot some video. We'll show you some spots up there. Going to Helen, Georgia, where we're going to meet up with a bunch of people. I also have a friend of mine that lives in Canada, and he, of course, has been locked down for many years now, I guess it seems like. But he's been locked down during this period of time, and although he has been doing some travel elsewhere, he finally is going to get down into Tellico Plains, Tennessee, and I'm going to see if I can hook up with him while I'm up there. It just so happens he's going to be getting down there about halfway into our trip. So like I said, I'll take you with me. I'm not going to be able to upload any video when I'm on the road. I don't have any laptop that'll do that. The laptop I have will barely boot, and it runs Windows 7. So essentially, you tell it to do something, go make a sandwich. There's a pan head. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to close it out. You have been officially updated. So watch for any future videos. Again, thanks everybody for subscribing. Thanks in advance to any new subscribers. When we hit that magic 1,000 number, we'll come up with some sort of a giveaway, as I said before. And I'll figure out what that is. I'm going to run around the shop here and try to find something that might be of interest, that you might like. I do have some stickers, but they're kind of crappy. I'll throw a few of those in there as well. Make it like a swag giveaway or something like that. I don't know. Combination swag and gag and bag and crap. So, till next time, always remember, wear clean underwear, you never know, and don't just repair, restore. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one. Okay, catch you later.